Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who understand that there's more to entrepreneurship than finding the latest flash-in-the-pan strategies, who understand that in order to build your empire, you need a solid foundation. I wholeheartedly believe that entrepreneurship is the biggest self-development journey you can be on, and it's my mission to help you make that journey easier. In this show, I bring together the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbutt, the scientist and mindset coach behind this show, and you're listening to the Wired for Success podcast. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of the Wired for Success podcast, where we talk about all things science, self-development, and entrepreneurship that help you get to that next level of success in your life and business. Today, it's my pleasure to talk with performance therapist and founder of Achieve Health USA and the Performance Therapy Academy, Ari Gronich. He has helped Olympic and Paralympic athletes break world records, win gold medals, and earn legacy championships. And today he's going to share his wisdom with us. So welcome, Ari, and thank you so much for being on my show today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. So as always, I'd love to start by hearing a little bit about you and about your journey and your background. So how did you end up doing what you're doing right now?
Yeah, it's a fascinating story. And the truth is that I grew up in two worlds, as an athlete and as somebody who was sick. So I had a brain tumor that nobody knew I had from like age 7. I still have it. It's still there. It just symptom-wise started happening at 7. And by the time I was 12, I had to be injected into puberty, breast reduction surgery when I was 14. So I was a medical mystery. Nobody knew I had this brain tumor. Nobody knew what was going on. I was just being treated for symptoms and not really getting better. And I was an athlete. So I played played baseball for 8 years, was a gymnast for 8 years. I played tennis since I was 3, did martial arts, was a long distance cycler. I mean, I was an athlete. And because of this tumor and the hormonal kind of chaos that stemmed from it, I was not getting better, but I was getting bigger. And I just kept gaining weight and gaining weight and gaining weight. And it didn't matter how much exercise I did or how well I ate. And back then food was a little different still. I mean, it was just starting the chemical age, so to speak, where we were being flooded with stuff. So, pretty much healthier food than the sad diet that we have now. And I just kept getting bigger. And by the time I was about 17, I realized something is going on. The Western medical doctors didn't know how to fix me. So and my parents were Amway people when I was growing up. So I grew up with herbs and stuff in my garage by the caseload. and so I had that background. And so I was 17, I was in high school, and I decided to take some aromatherapy and herbology classes and became a certified aromatherapist and master herbalist at 17, which was interesting. It was a long process of study. But at 18, I graduated high school. My parents wanted to take us on a whitewater rafting trip and didn't tell us about it. So it just woke us up one morning. The van was full. Everything was ready to go. And I was taking a homeopathic remedy that I got from a naturopath, and it was snake venom. And this snake venom, I did not know. You can't have that with caffeine or, other things. So I'm drinking Mountain Dew on a whitewater rafting trip. Allergies going nuts. So I'm taking the snake venom, and my body had a nasty reaction. I kind of mixed that with some heat stroke, sunstroke, and I ended up dead in the hospital And I was dead 26 minutes before they brought me back.
Wow.
And about 3 days later, I woke up, I sat up in the hospital and I said, I think I need to be a healer.
Okay.
And that's kind of how the journey started. Like I said, it's interesting. There's more to it than that, but that's how I began. So right out of high school, I went into a massage school, and that massage school, I sent letters to like 26 something schools, 28 schools, picked one, went to it, and it was really fascinating because that teacher, the owner of the school, had been a therapist for over 40 years, had no idea how to run a school, but she knew everybody in the industry. And so she would fly them in. She would start flying them in to train us. And basically it was like internships, really, really intense trainings with each expert for long periods of time, like 10, 12-hour days for 2-3 weeks or 4 weeks. And then they would leave and somebody else would come in. And so I ended up getting a massive education that is about 5,000 hours by my third year. And just for perspective, most massage therapists max out at 500 hours in school and then add continuing ed to it. Doctors are 3,800 hours, including internships for their entire college career. Chiropractors about 4,200 hours. So by my third year in practice, I had over 5,000 hours of training and internships, let alone working with pretty cool companies and stuff like that. So,
well, that's an amazing story. And I read on your homepage where you talked about your mission, and I love that you said that your mission is to take our society to shift the mindset within our society from this emergency mindset where we just treat a problem to a more proactive mindset where we avoid the problem in the first place. And I just think that it makes so much more sense to do it that way and to avoid these problems that we can avoid instead of letting problems escalate to the point where you need to spend a ton of time, money, and energy on managing an issue that you could have avoided in the first place. So can you tell us a little bit about what it means to you to develop a proactive mindset and what that looks like to you?
yeah, forethought is something that is lost in the world at the moment, along with common sense, critical thinking, and knowing about things like the butterfly effect. And so forethought is where you take an action that you're about to do and you think it out, and you think it out in long steps. So if I do this, and we can take it to like a business decision, right? If I post this political thing, right? What are the consequences to my business to that? What are the benefits? And what are the reactions that are going to happen? And then how can I manage that risk? And then how can I alleviate as much of it as possible? That's a business decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at a health decision, forethought is like, if I eat this McDonald's today, what's going to happen to me tomorrow? What's going to happen to me in a week, a month, a year, 10 years? How is it going to affect me long term eating this one thing now, right? And if you can accept the risk, then you can make a decision based on that and accept the consequences that come from that risk. But most people don't even think about it. There's no forethought. There's just, I'm hungry. Where's there to go? Oh, there's a McDonald's. I'll go there, right? And they're not even attempting to think about the possibilities of what can happen from that action. It's like smoking. We know that smoking will kill you, right? We know that. But it's a long-term process to get to that end. And so people smoke because they don't feel the effects. And by the time they start feeling those effects, it's too late, right? And now they have to react to it instead of being proactive and saying, I'm just not going to do this thing that I know is going to have a negative reaction. Now, for instance, I might have a fetish for sushi, for instance, right? And so I may go to a sushi place knowing that I will never eat another piece of rice for the next month, right? I'm not gonna have any carbs or sugars, right? I'm gonna go and I'm gonna gorge on sushi right now, knowing that for the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'm gonna be suffering the consequence of that action.
Right.
But for me, it's worth that little bit once in a while for that treat versus I'm going to have sushi every day that's filled with mercury, that's filled with rice, which has lots of sugar in it and so forth. So it's just a matter of being proactive. So let's look at it in more of a macro view. Our system of medicine is so screwed up right now because it's based on reaction to illness versus being proactive. The incentives are off. The incentive for the system is to provide more procedures. The more procedures that they do, the more money they make.
So true.
Doesn't matter if the procedure is one that you need, one that's going to benefit you anyway, one that's going to create a difference in your health. It just matters if we're going to do more procedures. I'll give you an example. I tore the meniscus in my knee a couple of years ago, and I go to the hospital and they want to do an X-ray in order to then send me to get an MRI. Well, an X-ray isn't going to tell you anything about a ligament or a tendon, only about bone.
Yep.
So what's the point of doing that $800+ procedure that takes medical expertise, takes a specialist in radiology, takes somebody to know how to read it, takes the equipment, the film, et cetera. All of the cost associated with that can be completely eliminated because we know that an MRI is going to tell you the information. So let's do the MRI first instead of the X-ray. That's just an inefficiency in the system, but it's an inefficiency that's there by design. The more procedures, the more money. The more money, the more money, the more power, the more procedures, right? And so people aren't being taught to be proactive. They're being taught by a system that's designed for it to be reactive. And it just simply is not working. We can tell that by every aspect of what's gone on in our healthcare system. Technology is amazing. Reactions and the results of the system are abysmal.
So what could a better system look like? How could we incentivize people to be healthy?
Well, we have to incentivize the systems. Most things that take people from sickness to health are free. And so going for a walk, for instance, on a daily basis, 15 to 20 minutes, right? It's free. Doesn't cost you a dime. How many people do you know that are going for a walk in your neighborhood? If you look out your neighborhood all day long, you'll see 10, 15, maybe 20 people out of 120 homes, 200 homes, 300 homes, right? Going on their daily walks. And usually it's only if they have a kid or if they have a dog, right? People aren't moving. So that's a free way in order to get healthy proactively, right? But doctors aren't being taught to teach you how to walk, to tell you to walk, to teach you how to eat. They're not taught that. And so when you go to a doctor for a health concern, getting healthy is not the thing that they're going to focus on. It's the symptom that you're explaining or displaying that they're going to focus on. So if you have a symptom of something, they're going to prescribe a pill or a procedure because that's how they get paid. Versus saying, okay, you need to walk more, you need to eat less sugar, like basic kinds of things. It doesn't cost anything to eat less sugar.
No.
It doesn't cost you a lot and it actually saves you money to grow a little bit of your food yourself and make sure that it's organic and not filled with pesticides and chemicals, right? These are things that don't cost a lot, but time and energy, and that time and energy actually helps keep you healthy as well. So, a lot of it is just that we have the system created and designed for reaction in our country and in our mentality in general. Whereas if you go over to the East, you'll see them doing yoga or Tai Chi or something as a country altogether, right? Because the entire country's culture is around that self meditation, that self exploration of your health. Think about it. If those couple billion people got sick the way that the US is, if their percentage of sick was the same as ours, it would be crazy, right? We would overtax every system. And along with the lines of what we've been experiencing with Corona, who's talking about getting healthy in the media? Who's talking about raising your immune system, making your body so that it itself can fight off disease and prevent this virus and these things from happening? Nobody is talking about getting healthy in any mainstream media at all, and maintaining a healthy lifestyle to avoid the possibility of, even if you get it, your immune system is so strong, you'll be either symptomless, asymptomatic, or you're going to have very low symptomology because your immune system is so strong. So that's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. And I mean, we all know what we are supposed to do, right? We all know we should get enough sleep, we should eat a healthy diet, we should get exercise. We all know these things, but very few people actually do it because our brain is just wired to seek that short-term benefit and not look at the long-term consequences. And that's why so many people struggle with that. But those are the things that I teach my clients. Like, you have to do these things, you have to do them on a regular basis. They are your non-negotiables. You have to plan your life around that, because if you don't stay healthy, what do you have? Your health is your first wealth. If you don't look after yourself, well, how well will your business run? So a lot of people just, they are so focused on something, some aspect of their life, their business, for example, that they just don't look at the rest or look at this strong foundation that enables them to create those results that they actually want to achieve.
Yes. But one of the things that you just said, I disagree with.
Okay.
Because I like to be outside of my own echo chamber. And you said we all know what to do. And that's just not true.
Okay.
Most people do not know what to do. They have so much contradictory evidence. Milk, is it good for you or bad for you? And which week did you look to see if it's good for you or bad for you? Cheese, is it good for you or bad for you? Or is it just bad for you if it's got the chemicals added to it, or if it's bad for you just, in general? We don't know. And the science doesn't know, because the science is being bought and paid for. So people can only do that Dr. Google thing for so long before their brains end up exploding, because Dr. Google has advice for anybody in any echo chamber, right?
Yeah.
If you're a person who is going to believe that fat is the devil, then you're going to find all the diets where fat is the devil. And if you eat fat, you're going to be heavy. And if you eat vegetables, you're going to be thin, right? But if you're somebody who is a carnivore, predisposed, and that's your echo chamber, then you're going to find the keto and everything meat is good, including nasty nitrate and, bacon and things like that, right? It's all good because your fat and your meat is good, but now you're losing out on fiber. And so the echo chambers have distorted what people know or don't know. I was at a Walmart, And I asked the meat attendant if he knew of where I could find the grass-fed meat. And he didn't know how to find it. He didn't even know what it was. And I was like, how can somebody in this day and age not know the difference between grass-fed? Because my echo chamber obviously is that of health. But that's why I'm disagreeing with you, is because I realized then how little people in general actually do know, because nobody is teaching them if they're not in that echo chamber. If you're teaching, I would imagine that most of the people are inside of your echo chamber. They already believe you. There's probably not a lot of people who are listening who disagree with your point of view, right?
Probably.
And
I would hope so.
I would hope so too, because those are the best people. Because the people that, I love debate and disagreement, right? And if I can disagree with somebody in an intelligent and non-reactive way, we can move closer towards a truth. As soon as it becomes reactionary, now we're moving away from truth and more into emotion, right? So
I agree.
I love having the discussions, but wouldn't it be awesome if the people listening to your show were half people who completely disagreed with you and started a debate with you versus, and engaged in the conversation, versus people who just go, yeah, what she said, right?
Both is fine with me.
Right. Both is fine. And because you want the validation, and we need the back and forth in order to advance. So
yeah, and I mean, I agree about the details. So that, as you said, some studies show that meat is good for you. Some studies show it's bad for you. But in general, there's probably no study that tells you McDonald's is good for you. So
I'm sure somebody has done the McDonald's diet and thinks that it's fantastic.
Okay, maybe there's. I stand corrected.
Subway has, the Subway diet, and that was back when they were still putting yoga mat material inside their bread. So
what are some of the most common problems that you help your clients with?
Yeah, so these days, so originally what I would do is take a client, and I have a little bit different way of dealing with clients than most do. I take a 2 to 3 hour intake process. Mm-hmm. And so I'm asking every single possible question that could possibly be asked about their health history, family health history, friends around them, what their environment is like, who the people around them are and how they are with them. Are there toxic, it's like I go through an entire process. But at the beginning of my career was mostly with injured athletes who needed to compete, and they had a very short timeline, typically before the next competition or the next time that they had to go. So I had to basically take all these things into consideration so that I could develop a plan for them to make sure that we got there 100% of the time, no mistakes. And that is probably, I think, my claim to fame in my career, is the fact that the people that I would work with would not just get back to where they were before, but they would get better than they thought they could be. And then I translate that kind of information, taking Olympic and Paralympic and pro athletes to that kind of level. Your mind comes at a different spot than, say, if you're working just with general, clientele. Not that it's bad, but they recognize minutia, tenths of seconds. Mm-hmm. Whereas somebody else may not notice if they, were 2 or 3 minutes later on a run, right? Or earlier. So when you do that kind of work, you translate it in performance to corporations, to general people, to business in general. And you start finding the little bits of minutia, the little pieces that can help a company, help support somebody who's doing whatever that is that they're doing. So as the performance therapist, I would go in and I would help increase the performance of whomever I was consulting. So a company, for instance, this is one of my passions these days. My next book is that I'm writing is called Tribal Living in a Modern World: The Corporate Culture Revolution. And it's really about restructuring corporations so that they effectively are working with nature, so to speak. So everything in nature is based on circles, right? Atoms, everything circular, spinning of anything is circular. So why not create a circular system to your corporation or structure to your corporation that incorporates things like an intern, a master, and apprentice, right? So you have 3 generations, so to speak, of employee that are all learning the same information. The master is kind of teaching while the apprentice is learning and the intern is doing, right? And so all of a sudden, projects happen fast versus slow. You create smaller teams, kind of like the SEALs are small but effective and efficient versus large armies that take a long time to move, right? Again, all of that is to say that what I do with clients is I make them more effective, more efficient, more nimble, so that they can, and outside of the box thinking, so that they can do what they want and activate their vision for a better world faster and easier.
I love that. So I've read that you are trained in many different disciplines, like bodywork and kinesiology and nutrition and so many different things. So do you use all of these to combine them in a unique way, or is it that you pick and choose single techniques from all the disciplines that you've learned?
Yeah, I don't do any single techniques at this point. I don't even remember the names of all the techniques that I've incorporated. Like if I'm doing something, I might do PNF for one moment and then I'll switch to MFR. PNF is proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. ART, active release technique. MFR is myofascial release. And then maybe I'll skip into a little breath work and some energy work at the same time in order to get them going. Maybe I'll do a little hypnosis while I'm working on them to get them into the zone. So it's really about how you combine for what that person needs. Having a great toolbox is awesome, but you don't use individual tools typically with a job. You use a set of tools, and that set may vary depending on the job that you're doing. And so every single person, I'm going to say it, is a snowflake. Meaning we're all very unique. We all have our own, reactions to things and ways in which we heal best. And I don't feel like my job is to do procedures. My job is to get results. And so if I'm using a procedure or a tool that is not the tool that that person needs, then I'm wasting their time. And I don't like doing that. And so I find that to be an issue in the industry in general, is that we waste a lot of people's time and energy by doing things that are absolutely ineffective and won't ever work. And we kind of know it won't ever work. It's just going to maybe mask a symptom for a little bit. But we do that in order to get money. So I kind of go the opposite direction. What is going to get me the best result? If I had an Olympic client who was about to do a competition and they couldn't make that competition because they weren't yet ready, I would not have a job for 26 years, right? I would have been axed out of that part of the industry a long time ago. And what we forget is that results matter more than procedures. What we forget is that we made this shit up and we could make it up better. We can think about it deeper. We can look at it closer, and we can have more forethought.
This was part 1 of my interview with performance therapist Ari Gronich. If you've enjoyed this interview so far, stay tuned for the second part of the interview that I'm going to release next week. In part 2, Ari and I will talk about some of the most powerful techniques for personal development. We will talk about uncovering yourself behind the mask of pain, and we will talk about controversial methods and rethinking our society. So if you'd like to listen to the second part of the interview, make sure you don't miss next week's episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please take a sec to rate and review my show. It would mean the world to me because you'd help me reach more entrepreneurs like yourself who would love this show. If you'd like to learn more about creating a widely successful business without sacrificing your health, relationships, or sanity, make sure to stick around and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And why don't you help me spread the word and share this show with your friends? I'd really appreciate it, and I'm sure your friends will too. Want to continue this conversation, build real relationships, and join a community of like-minded entrepreneurs? Come join my free Facebook community for visionary entrepreneurs. I would love to see you there. In the meantime, if you haven't done so already, grab my free brain priming audio file for entrepreneurs and start priming your brain for success in less than 5 minutes each morning. Curious? You can learn more about how this works and download the audio file at www.wiredforsuccess.solutions. Until next time, bye!